guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article titled, "My Marriage Wasn't All Bad, but After Turning 40, I Realized That Wasn't Enough." And guys, this article is written by a woman, and this article is a real-life example of what typically happens when a woman settles for the classic nice guy type, because she's basically realized that the type of guys that she was hot for in her teens and 20s during her prime, the bad boys, the Chad and Tyrones, they're not exactly marriage material. Or the type of guys, the high-value guys that obviously do very well for themselves, in high demand by women, that they're not interested in her either. They're not interested in her, or simply not settling down, so they choose the typical vanilla nice guy. And I'm doing this, guys, this article for a reason, to give you a real-life example of why I tell you guys that if you spent most of your life in your teens, during high school and college, your 20s, and really women didn't exactly chase after you, give you the time of day, the type of girls that you wanted just weren't interested, and they usually are the type that said you were such a nice guy, they wanted to be friends, and it made you crazy because all the hot girls wanted to go out with the guys that were assholes. And then one day, all of a sudden, they start being interested in you. I tell you guys, there's a reason for that. And it's not because suddenly they saw the light, or they think that you've suddenly become cool. No, it's because they realize that they're not as appealing as they once were. They're older, typically in their 30s. They want to settle down. They want to have the marriage, white picket fence, the house in the suburbs with the kids. And they realize the guys they used to like, they're not going to do it for them. Okay, they're not going to marry them. They're not going to be that type. But you, they can see that you're marriage material a mile away. So they settle. And what typically happens is, eventually they get bored, and eventually, not all the time, but a lot of times, they either step out or end up ending the marriage. Okay? And the guy just scratches his head saying, I did everything right. What possibly could happen? Well, she never really loved you. Okay? She's settled. And this happens all the time. And this is a real example in her story here, that she's going to explain how that she goes down this path, all her thoughts, her feelings, all that, and to eventually guess what happens in the end. You guessed it, knowing how the stories I do, you'll see what happens here. But a perfect example, guys. So this is why, one of the many reasons I tell you guys, in today's world, you're better off being on your own. You're better off being single, because this happens so much. And don't think in any way, shape, or form, like I said in the beginning, that you all of a sudden are cool now and you got the girl. A lot of guys really delude themselves to think like, all right, I won in the end. And a lot of times the women say that they were stupid when they were younger, but now they know and they got the good guy, and you see what happens. But anyhow, let me jump into this, guys. You're going to see more of this real life example. Starts off, "I don't care about turning 40. I told anyone willing to listen, mostly myself, and it was true. I distracted myself by planning a debaucherous party in a castle and finding the perfect outfit to wear. A lot of rides on an outfit for a significant birthday. Party in a castle, princess? On a night when the number of candles on your cake is first and foremost in everyone's mind, your outfit must prove to everyone, especially yourself, you're not too old, but it also mustn't look like you're trying too hard to not look too old. It's a delicate balancing act." She's going to ramble on a bit, guys. I'm just warning you now, but there's a point to all this, and you're going to start to see the justification she starts to have for her feelings and all that, and obviously how she is going to one way or another admit that she married the nice guy to settle. Just bear with me here. She goes on, "I had no idea what this perfect, not too old, not trying too hard outfit would be until one day I made a last-minute visit to Barney's after a shoot in New York. As I ascended the escalator, I saw on a mannequin right in front of me the fullest, frothiest, tulle skirt a grown woman who always secretly wanted to be a peaches and cream Barbie could ever dreamt of. It was a dirty pink, dip-dyed Dries Van Noten, and everything I wanted without even knowing it." All right, I'm going to skip past this shit about her outfits. Just bear with me here. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. "The party was an unmitigated success. There were friends and fireworks and a giant champagne tower. All the best birthday cliches. I partied until dawn in a tiara, and at one point my 10-year-old played Happy Birthday on a grand piano as I sat on top of it and cut a gigantic, lavish Nutella chocolate cake covered in lashings of meringue. And then there was the comeback, lasting not just a few days. Or the come down, which would be the expected low after such a rollicking high, but for a few weeks. Then months Turning 40 might not have bothered me, but once I was actually in my 40s, even just a little bit, I was plagued by the slowly building realization that I was halfway through my life. That you only get one of them, and that when it came right down to it, I wasn't living my truest truth. What could she possibly mean by she wasn't living her truest truth? Well, you're going to find out. Trading your authenticity in exchange for safety, no matter how well intended, has a way of eating you up from the inside out. But I didn't know that yet. Listen to that. Trading your authenticity, your real self, in exchange for safety. What could that possibly mean? It starts to sound to me that her real self was probably a free spirit, and we know what free spirit actually means, for safety. What safety? The safe guy. The guy that makes good income, that's loyal, that's nice. That's the safety. For the longest time, it had been easy to ignore the reality of my situation. I had a perfectly good husband as far as husbands went. I married him because he was a kind, faithful, good man, and in my extensive dating experience, that's code for riding the carousel in my teens and 20s. And she says, those had appeared to be in short supply. You know, women always say that. They say that they had such a lengthy dating experience, rode the carousel, and they just simply couldn't find a good guy. And that's such horseshit, because most guys out there are good guys, ranging from your typical vanilla nice guys to just, good guys. Not bad boys, not nice guys, kind of in the middle. And yet, the saying here is short supply. What's really going on is she spent all her time dating the bad boys and really hoping they could be the guys she could settle with. How many women fall for that nonsense? But eventually they realize it doesn't work, so they better settle quick while they're still relatively good looking, and they pick the nice guy. What'd I tell you? She says, but a partner's innate goodness isn't enough to sustain a fulfilling marriage when you're missing all the magical bits, like romance and S-word chemistry and compatibility. Translation, she's bored. She's not, there's no spark. She's not drawn to this guy, because that's why women don't chase nice guys, because they don't challenge them. They're not a challenge. They're predictable. They're boring. They're always trying to get their approval, as you're going to see here as the story continues. While the bad boys do the exact opposite. That's why I tell you guys, if you do dating and relationships, you want to have a lot of characteristics that the bad boys have. I'm not saying act like a bunch of criminals or be assholes, but there are definite traits that you can adapt and adopt to help your game. She says, we didn't really have anything in common. He was sensible and practical, like making his bed in the morning and watching sport and investing his money for a rainy day. Classic, marry the good guy. I mean, I'm all for being smart with your money and being practical and sensible and all that. But those types aren't exactly exciting, and that's what they want. They want the guy that's going to be sensible and smart with money and have money, but at the same time, they want that guy who's going to thrill them, okay? Good luck getting that combination. Is extremely rare. I was a romantic daydreamer, ding ding, who left a trail of clothes from the front door to the sofa every afternoon. When I came home from work and spent stupid amounts of money on useless things like decorative cushions and truffle oil I'd forget to ever use. In other words, her husband is good with money, he's smart and practical, and she's a spendthrift, okay? She pisses away her money on bullshit. Does it sound familiar? He was stoic and emotionally reserved. I've always had way more feelings than I've ever known what to do with. In other words, she always follows her feelings, and her feelings will say to do this, as opposed to what's going on in her head. Okay? And you're going to see as this goes on what happens. These obvious differences in character were summed up as early as our first Christmas together. Now listen to this. Nervous about what to get me, he begged for a hint. I simply said something delightful, nothing practical. So you want to talk about approval-seeking behavior here. The guy was begging to tell her a hint of what he should get her, okay? Classic nice guy approval-seeking behavior. Don't do that, guys, okay? You think a bad boy would be thinking about what to get her for Christmas, let alone begging her for hints? Hell no, they wouldn't care, okay? But this guy's trying to get her approval. That's what nice guys do. Don't do that. A week later, he told me he'd nailed the brief. Christmas Day arrived, I gave him a bicycle. It was black with tan leather details, and he was sweet about it, but I could tell he thought it was a bit hipster and way too pretentious. Now listen to this. He gave me, wait for it, a pizza maker, a photo scanner, a Bluetooth for my car, and a really interesting choice for a receiver whose idea of water sports was drinking a pina colada in the shallow end of the pool, and an underrated video camera. Look at all the stuff he got her. Approval seeking. Now listen to this. I know I sound horribly ungrateful and probably somewhat of a fool because I still use the pizza maker to this day, whereas that wanky bike was likely sold on Gumtree long ago. But looking back at the moment, it was clear that we always spoke different languages. She wanted something not practical. She wanted something, what did she say here? Delightful. Meaning she didn't want a pizza maker or something useful. She wanted something that was just probably like a big ass gold diamond, a diamond ring or necklace or something like that. That's what she wanted. I must have known it then, but by that stage I stopped listening to my gut about such matters. Instead, I listened to my head to platitudes like opposites attract and love the one you're with. And to my Nana, who always told me that the key to a happy marriage is to make sure you pick a nice man just like she did. Well, Nana probably married a nice guy too, but Nana was probably rolling in the hay with some other dude. Don't think that your grandma wasn't as much like girls today in one form or another back in the day. It's possible. She says, I took her advice to heart. She was married to Pa, one of the all-time nice men, for 55 years. By this stage, she was dying, and I wanted so badly to hold on to her by emulating what they had. And that's when I found my own nice man. I married him. Funny how she said earlier she couldn't seem to find a good guy when she was younger. But when she was ready to obviously settle down, boom, no problem finding a nice guy. What'd I tell you? Because there's an unlimited supply of good guys out there. They're just not interested in them. And a lot of these nice guys, these good guys, either they're really nice guys or guys in the middle, if they just simply adopted a few traits to help them a little bit, the perception of them being like these nice guys versus guys that are actually kind of have some bad boy traits, it would change. It would really help them out. It wouldn't take a whole lot. But a lot of these guys just don't want to hear it. And they wonder sometimes why these things happen. I'm not trying to blame this all on the guys, but the guys don't help themselves in some area. But a girl like this, there's no making her happy. Oh, and by the way, you're going to find out another classic thing about her momentarily, which is going to make you all laugh once I read it. She says, Nan and I just both forgot to take into account the fact that she and Pa were also the great love and passion of each other's lives. The kind of hashtag couple goals who still held hands and smooched adorably every second they could, right up until the day that he died. It wasn't his niceness that made the marriage so strong or her so happy. It was their love, their profound connection. You can't emulate that just by wanting it. Yeah, and that's become more and more rare. Now, I'm sure she saw their relationship through the way she wanted to see it. I'm sure it wasn't all perfect, but again, times are different now. She goes on, still, our relationship wasn't all bad. We rarely argued. We were pleasant to each other. We had fun. Despite our differences, we made a good team. We should have probably just applied to be contestants on the block rather than getting married. So basically, their marriage was a friendship. They were roommates, okay? Probably occasionally hooked up, but that's about it. And raised their kids. For a long time, I could easily ignore the rest because his job meant he only spent a few nights a week in our family home. And I was busy and filling the increasingly gnawing empty hole I was feeling inside with children and friends, and more literally with lemon drizzle cake. The main way I've always kept my excess feelings under control is by eating them. Well, I saw a few pictures of her in the article, and she's certainly not fat. If those pictures are of her, she's pretty damn good looking for her age. Part of me suspected the problem might be just me, because no one else I knew was as much of a relationship effed up as I seemed to be. I was surrounded by irritably blissful seeming marriages, conveniently forgetting through the lens of wanting that no one ever knows the truth about a relationship except the people who are in it. So I tried my best to ignore my heart pangs that I felt when I saw a friend's husband do something as minor as touch his wife affectionately on the arm, or a couple give each other a pash at the end of the night when no one thought I was looking. I carefully looked away when I saw other married people look like they were just really enjoying each other's company. Now, here we go. I put that sort of relationship down to one of those things that just wasn't for me, like a childhood pony or a burnt orange Birkin. That didn't stop me from aching for it, but leaving never entered my mind. To have one ex I shared children with was unfortunate, but to have two would be careless. Did you hear that? So she was a single mom when she met this guy. Her first child was the result of riding the carousel because she didn't say she was married before. She was a single mom. She needed a guy that can provide, a guy that can take care of her, so she settled for the classic nice guy. What I tell you guys about the single moms, I'm not saying they're all like this, but believe me, a lot of them are looking for a guy for stability and a guy that can provide, not just for her, but also her kid. And she'll usually have a kid with that new marriage as an insurance policy. So for you guys out there that are thinking about dating a single mom and potentially getting involved, just remember something here. It may not be just you they're interested in. It's you helping provide for her and that kid. Just need to point that out. She continues, instead I told myself that no couple is perfect, and I tried very hard to avoid dwelling on my life choices or watching Nicholas Sparks movies. Guys, I've said this so many times, how many people get brainwashed by movies and TV and think that's reality? It's not. Nicholas Sparks movies, good Lord. I try to keep all my emotions, my ever-growing loneliness, my yearning for a deeper connection, shoved deep inside me. But slowly they seeped out, an annoying trickle at first, but pretty soon a full flood. Listen to this. I mean, is she trying to be a writer or something here? But again, this article, guys, like I told you, you're seeing the slow but surely what's going on in her head and her heart towards the eventual, well, you know what's coming here. You can probably see it coming a mile away to justify these actions, which she does. The little voice inside my head that had sometimes whispered out to me at the blue during dinner or lying in bed that this isn't right eventually turned into one that screamed to me constantly. I should have ended it much sooner than I did, but I wasn't brave enough. What could this be? First, I pretended it was okay because I was afraid and I thought what I had should be enough. Then I cried and pleaded a lot, unfairly begging him to help me fix things that could never be fixed because they were never intact in the first place. Then I slowly let us become more and more detached from each other, less and less married in any real sense of the word, until eventually, and maybe inevitably, the time came when I fell in love with someone else. Gee, never saw that coming, huh? It was a coward's way out, but I've been cowardly in matters of the heart for a long time by then. The end. So guys, unfortunately, you're not going to get a continuation of the story, but this story is all about basically what's going on in her head and the things to justify the eventual cheating. She was a single mom. She obviously admitted in code that she was a carousel rider before. No good guys before until guess what? She had a kid, and then she very quickly found a nice guy to settle with. He probably thought, hey, I got this good-looking woman. I got it made. They finally want me. And he goes on being the practical, loyal, good guy, which these are all good traits. And he thought he had it made. Wrong. So this is why I tell you guys, if you think, again, and I don't mean to be a jerk, I'm sure some guys watch me right now. If you're honest with yourselves, know that you're a nice guy and know that women aren't exactly chasing you, but all of a sudden they start doing it. Be aware. It could be for what you could provide. And watch out for those single moms, okay? You just never know, dude, okay? But that's a perfect example, all right? And I'm telling you, this is why, one of many, many reasons why I tell you guys to avoid marriage in today's world, to really think twice about that, okay? And there's different elements here. There's the crazy family to deal with her family, potentially. There's the how you can get hammered in the divorce process, and how things, either she married you just to settle because she couldn't find the high value guys that she really wouldn't get involved with her, or simply that she just, she wanted to settle and eventually got bored like many do. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to happen all the time. I'm not saying they're all going to step out. But believe me, I'm sure there's thinking about it going along the way. So you just got to be careful, guys. But real life example, I thought it was good to share. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.